Hey gang, John here with RealTruck.com. Today we're going to be installing the ReadyLift Lift Kit onto our Dodge Ram project truck. Okay, ReadyLift offers a wide variety of different heights for your lift kits and such, but what we have for our project here is a 3-inch front and a 1-inch rear. This kit comes with your 3-inch front spacers, your rear U-bolts, your shock extenders, front bump stops, front sway bar drop down brackets, and your rear spacers for the back of the truck. Plus all your bolts and hardware to attach those on. Okay, we've got all of our parts and stuff laid out, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and we're going to do the back first. So we're going to go ahead and pull these rear wheels off of this truck so we can get them out of our road. We'll have more room in there. So let's get after it. Okay, we've got the tires down and out of the way. And a very important step that we don't want to miss is to make sure that we get some kind of a jack or something underneath this rear differential to support this thing. We've got our U-bolts out of the way. Rear end dropped a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and let it down a little bit further so we can get this in there. Once we got that block in, then we want to go ahead and make sure we line this all back up. We'll go ahead and lift this back up. Alright guys, now we got this side all snugged up, we're going to go ahead and move over and do the same thing on the other side. Okay guys, we've got the rear lift on, so now what we're going to go ahead and do is move up here to the front. First thing we want to do once we get the tires out of the way is go ahead and remove our shackle where it attaches to our front differential. Okay, as you could just see, we had our air gun on here and the whole assembly wants to spin on us. Sometimes that happens, sometimes we're not lucky enough to just get that bolt to spin off. So what we got to do is get a couple of wrenches. And we have to get after it with wrenches. And what you want to do is go ahead and put your wrench on your nut on the inside and then take another wrench on the outside here and then just go ahead and start turning that off. Okay, once we got that loose, and we'll just leave it stuck in there for right now. Kind of help hold it while we go ahead and take our mounts off of the frame here. Okay. Now we've got our link pin off of there. We've got our sway bar mount loose here. We'll go ahead and go over and do the same thing on the other side. And we'll go ahead and pull the sway bar down and get out of our road. Okay, once we got our bolts all out of our sway bar, then we can go ahead and take it down out from under the truck. Okay, once we have our sway bar down and out of the way, what we want to go ahead and do is install our sway bar drops. Now, we're going to go ahead and use the factory bolts that we took out. And the one thing we want to make sure of is that when we put this on, that we put it on up here with the bottom bolts more towards the back. We've got our lower shock bolt out, so our shock is loose in here. So the next thing we want to do is that there's 3 nuts up here on the top. They're 15 millimeter on this particular truck. They could vary depending on what you're working on. So we're going to go ahead and loosen those up, but we're not going to take this off. We just want to get these loose. Guys, we got the top mount bolts loosened up here, the nuts loosened up. So the next thing we want to do is go ahead and slowly let our jack down and take the tension off of this spring so that we can get this spring out of here to put our spacers in. Save this piece because we'll need to reuse this for our spacer. There's a retainer up here that actually is the bolt part of our nut part for our tower. So we'll go ahead and take those nuts off of there now and pull that retainer out of there. Okay, once we got our factory retainer out of there, we'll go ahead and take our ReadyLift 3-inch extenders and we'll mount those up in here. Once that's on, then we'll put our spring back up in. Okay, we've got our spring back up in here, all up in the pocket where it's supposed to go. However, something that you might need to do on this particular truck is to take this upper torsion arm loose. And all you got to do is just take the bolt out right here, and that allows this thing to move freely, which will allow you to get a little bit more drop on your rear end. May still take a little bit of a pry bar to get the spring up over this lip and over this nub here, but it will go right on in there. What we want to do is go ahead and take the shock off. Once you get your shock and your shock mount tower and stuff up out of your truck, then what you're going to want to do is go ahead, we'll take our shock extenders, which come with our kit here, and we'll put these on over the top of our shock. Okay, and that's it. So we just got to get this back in the truck. Once we've got our shock and our shock tower back down in here where it's supposed to be, put the bottom bolt in and the shock, go ahead and raise the truck back up a little bit and get this lined up on your bolts for your extender plate. Then just go ahead and put your nuts on there and tighten them up. We've got our shock in, we've got our mounts all tightened up and back together. So now we need to get this sway bar back up in here, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. We've got our sway bar all put back in, our links in place. Everything's bolted and tightened down. So then the last step of our process is go ahead and remove these factory bump stops and put the longer ones that come with our kit in here. Get the old one down out of there. So next step is to install this new one. Okay, we've got our new bump stop installed. So That pretty much completes our installation of the ReadyLift 3-inch leveling lift kit.